Hello, everyone, and happy New Year's Eve. I hope you've had a wonderful holiday season. A lot of football, a lot of great things happening on. We're going to be talking about the quarterfinal games of the college football playoff. They start today and go on to tomorrow. One game today, three tomorrow. All very exciting, and we're hoping for a better situation this round than the previous round, which we'll talk about briefly right now. Happened a week and a half ago. We'll give you a little bit of an update. But if you missed it or you just didn't see the games, you didn't miss much. You probably heard that there were a lot of blowouts. But let's hope for some better games here in the second round, the quarterfinals. James, thank you for being here. I know there are a couple of things you want to talk about with that, and I'll bring you in.
Yeah, first thing I'll say, it's a little noisy around here, so if you hear some dog barking, my apologies. But yeah, I don't really have too much to say. You kind of hit it on the head. I mean, it was pretty much a home team dominated first round of games. Yeah, nothing from the away teams really. I mean, there was a couple teams like Clemson looked okay in the fourth quarter, and it's like, well, where was that the first three quarters? I mean, like, so the scores didn't necessarily dictate, I would say, the domination from the home teams, but it really was a home team dominated affair. Which then leads me into my question that I think we can talk about just for, a minute or so before we get into the preview. But it's not looking great when it comes to the committee and how they're seating. And I know we've had multiple discussions offline about this, but do you think with how the first round went, reseeding for next year is something that needs to be changed?
Yeah, I believe so. And it's been discussed by a lot of different people on a lot of different networks at this point. I think what they're going to do is they're going to get rid of the first round buys to the conference champion. I think they'll just give the first round buys to the top four seeds and then fill it in with the rest, the eight. I'm cool with the, conference champion, the mid-major champion getting a spot in the playoff. It's just I don't think they should get an automatic bye, and I actually think that would fix everything. It's not a hard fix, and it's just I think that one thing would make a lot of corrections here, and prevent some of these awful games that we saw. I mean, a lot of people were complaining and saying, "Oh my God, this is awful, and these are terrible games." But at the exact same time, I mean, the first round you saw what would be teams ranked three, four, five, six to destroy their opponent. Well, when you're the third, fourth, fifth, sixth best team in the country, that's what you're supposed to do at home. You're supposed to kill the team that you're playing. Giving those buys to three and four seeds. That would have happened in this in the thing that I'm saying. So I think it's an easy fix, and I'm hoping it's a fix that I think a lot of people want, but I think it's a fix that's needed. And I think what they should do, you don't have to tweak it a whole lot. There was a lot of hype, a lot of excitement. The Notre Dame game, the Penn State game, both come to mind. Those stadiums were rocking right from the get go. Um, I thought it was a really cool environment, and I don't think there needs to be a lot of fixing. It's just let's just seat it the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, half of me is like, yes, I think reseeding for next year needs to be put into place. But then also, if you are the home team and you're given that home environment, I mean, you got yourself into that position for a reason.
Yeah,
That's your advantage.
yeah.
And I mean, it sucks from a fan's perspective because it's obviously a blowout. You want to see good games, but I'm sure none of the Notre Dame fans or none of the you know Ohio State fans were upset that they won by so much. But
Yeah.
I think I think this week we're gonna see we need to see a lot out of Boise State and Arizona State,
Yeah.
and they need to show that they belong,
Yeah.
or else there's gonna be people clamoring for, oh my God, why did Boise State get a bye? Why did ASU get a bye?
Yeah.
Because if they do not show up and we get a blowout in both of those games, then it's going to be a super easy fix, I think, for the committee to be like, okay,
Yeah.
just like you said, we
Yeah.
need to seed it 1 through 4, not give ASU a bye just because they won the Big 12.
Yeah.
So,
And also just adding to that just really fast. I know there was a lot of people after that first round that people were saying, "Oh, SMU didn't deserve to get in. They got blown out. They looked terrible." Um, Indiana, same deal against Notre Dame. I think they got the right teams in. Actually, it's just the fact that you're seeing how good a top five team is. It's just the way it is. I mean,
Well, we saw a ton of blowouts in the season, but when you have
yeah,
more when you have a full slate of games on a Saturday, you can switch over. Oh, Old Miss is blowing out Kentucky.
yeah,
Let's switch over and check the other 6 to 10 games on major networks that could be a better game. But when you have literally 4 games and they're all spaced out evenly, to ask for all four to be great games, I mean that's
yeah,
asking a lot.
yeah. I just don't think everyone expected all four of them to be bad. I
No.
guess. That said, let's hope for a better quarterfinal matchup, and let's kind of break down some of these games. We'll start with the Fiesta Bowl, which has number 6 Penn State taking on number 3 Boise State. It's happening in Glendale tonight, 5 o'clock, I believe, on the West Coast. I got to double check that. It's this evening. Who do you got in this matchup?
Well, if you've been following our podcast, you've probably heard my disdain for Penn State. I'm picking Penn State to win this game. I think it's going to be pretty close, and I don't think we can. I mean, you can't talk about this Penn State Boise State matchup without mentioning Ashton Genty. And I think the big key, and it's not difficult to think about or even put out there as a preview show, but it's going to be Genty versus that Penn State pass rush. I just think for Boise State to have any shot at winning this game, Genty has to have a big game. I mean, he's been their offense all season. I know their quarterback has been, he's been solid. He's not a turnover machine when it comes, he protects the ball very well. But I mean, Genty's going to be the key. And I think Boise has an opportunity in this game just from the standpoint that I thought they played Oregon very, very well. And it's something that SMU never quite, showed us in that Penn State game. And they never really had the opportunity playing in the ACC to play against a big time team like a Penn State, like an Oregon. So if Boise can go back and look at film on what they did well against Oregon, maybe that's something they can go off of. But yeah, I mean, to me, it's if this game's going to be close, I think Genty just has to have a big game.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think in order for Boise State to not only win but be in it, Genty's got to go off. I just don't think that he is going to go off. I think Penn State, their defense looked very good against SMU. They've looked pretty good throughout the season. Got to remember, this is a Penn State team that's only lost 2 games, and basically they're the 2 favorites right now to win the national championship in Oregon and Ohio State. So it's not like they've lost to anyone bad. They really have had real no mishaps. In both those games that they lost, they were close. They're both 1-score games in both cases. The offense, when it's clicking, is really good, and the defense, I mean, I think it was 2 defensive touchdowns, if I remember right, against SMU. They played
Yep.
really well. They made SMU look really, really poor. I have a bad feeling that this could have the same recipe, and Penn State could make Boise State look very one-dimensional and really bad really early. And I'm actually predicting this to be not a great watch. I think Penn State's going to win by 20 plus. I don't think this is going to be close. Um, Luckily, I think it turns tomorrow, but I think this might be a difficult watch. And Penn State is putting their stamp on. This is a very, very good team.
Yeah. Yeah, Boise State has a good defense, but again, the question can be who have they played?
Yeah,
But last thing I will say is that tight end Tyler Warren on Penn State, he's really good. He didn't quite break out like I thought he would in
yeah,
game one against SMU, but I think he's going to be a huge matchup problem for those Bronco linebackers. I mean, he's already pretty much solidified himself as the top 1 or 2 tight end to be taken in next year's draft. So,
he's a beast. I mean, he is
yeah.
a beast.
And I don't think the Boise State linebackers and safeties who are going to cover him are going to have any opportunity to even managing to stop him. So he's a matchup that you need to exploit if you're Penn State. And, if it is a close game and you have to get into the passing game a little more because your run game's not working, use that man because he is
Yeah.
a matchup problem.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's go into tomorrow. First game tomorrow morning, Peach Bowl. We got number 5 Texas taking on number 4 ASU.
Yeah, this is going to be a really interesting game. Like I said, I mean, ASU has a lot to prove. I mean, they got the bye. They've kind of been the Cinderella team all season. They were projected to be, I believe, the worst team in the Big 12, and they just had a absolutely phenomenal season, led by fifth place Heisman vote getter Cam Scadaboo. I just don't see it right now with this ASU team. I know they've had a long time. They've had a long time to prepare for this game. Obviously, they didn't know who their matchup was going to be against until that Texas Clemson game ended. But to me, Texas's dominance in the trenches, both offense and defensively, are just going to be too much for ASU to handle. Cam Scadaboo is a power back. He's not like a speedster, and Texas has some big, big defensive linemen. So I don't think we're going to see the Cam Scadaboo who's just trucking guys and running over dudes because Texas has a really good defense. And I think another big thing is ASU's lack of the passing attack. Their top receiver Jordan Tyson is out. I know their receivers looked pretty good in the Big 12 championship game against Iowa State, but I think missing Jordan Tyson is going to loom over them pretty large. And honestly, I think Texas just kind of runs all over ASU, and by runs all over, look for Jaden Blue to have another big game.
So I actually think this is going to be a pretty good game. ASU's been able to rest, get ready for this game. Texas has looked a little shaky. The SEC championship game, I get it's Georgia, but Georgia's been pretty shaky too. Texas really struggled to move the ball on Texas. And then against Clemson, which you can almost make an argument at this point, that might be their best win of the season. They kind of fumbled late, and I get it was a 14-point victory, but it was one of those things of out of the 4 games from the first round games that you could argue was the closest one. There's just certain things with this Texas team that just don't feel complete. They just kind of they go kind of in these weird modes where it's just like, is this team that great? That said, I think Texas wins. I think it's a 1-score game, though. I think we're going to see something along the lines of like a 28-24. Texas is going to win it, but they're going to have to grind out the win. I think ASU is going to look good is going to look good doing it. But in the end, what got through Texas through the SEC schedule was they just have a ton of talent. And I think this game, their talent is just going to persevere, and that's what's going to give them a tight edge victory, in my opinion.
Well, and Quinn Ewers looked pretty healthy too. I know a question that we had going into the last preview was what's the ankle like for Quinn Ewers, and he looked pretty fine to me. So he's obviously had another week and a half, 2 weeks, week and a half to rest up. So we didn't really see Arch Manning much. So It looks like it's really just going to be the Quinn Ewers show.
All right, going into the Rose Bowl, this is a big one, and a lot of people are saying this could be what seems to be the national championship this year. Ohio State, number 8, taking on number 1, Oregon, and this could be a great classic Rose Bowl that we've seen years past.
Yeah, this is going to be a fun one, especially because we've already seen this matchup before. So here's my first question. So if Oregon wins, do we count that as an upset since OSU's favored?
It's crazy. It's crazy. I mean, this goes back to the seeding thing.
Oregon kind of got screwed, honestly, when it comes to, you're the best team in the country, you're undefeated, and arguably you're having, I know they got a bye, but you have the hardest path to get to the championship game.
Yeah.
And Ohio State is playing, I mean, obviously it's, one game because the game prior to that, they missed out on their championship game because they lost to Michigan, but they absolutely annihilated Tennessee, who all season we talked about Tennessee as being really good on offense, really good on defense, which they were, and then they just did not show up at all
Yep.
in that first round against Ohio State. But the big key for me is I'm curious to see how Oregon's defense fares.
Mhm.
So against three of the teams in the college football playoff, Oregon allowed 30 plus points. Against everyone else all season, 21 points or less. So, I know you've talked about Oregon as being, that Big Ten team within, a quote unquote SEC defense.
Mhm.
And they are a good defense, don't get me wrong. But against top 10 teams, top 15 teams, they are a little vulnerable. So I'm curious to see if Ohio State can storm out of the gate, kind of like they did against Tennessee. I don't think it'll be that perfect of a start. I mean, to go 3 out of 3
Yeah.
touchdown drives to start a game is pretty incredible. But I think we're going to have a really good one on our hands, and I'm going with the Ducks. I think that they've been able to. I mean, they're undefeated for a reason. They've won the tight games. They've blown teams out. They started off the year a little questionable, and they kind of picked up steam as the year went on, and they have a Heisman, you know, finalist on their team for a reason. Dylan Gabriel's really good. He's the touchdown leader outright in college football. So leaning on him and leaning on their dynamic run game, I think Ohio State gets a little shocked and a little punch in the mouth, and then I'm curious to see what Ohio State fans do about Ryan Day if they lose this game.
Yeah. So I just saying what you're off your last statement because of what happened against Tennessee. I think Ryan Day is now officially safe, regardless of what happens in this game. So I don't think Ryan Day is losing his job at all. That said, I think this is going to be a high scoring matchup. I think this is going to feel very similar to that Penn State Oregon game in the Big 12 championship or Big 10 championship. A lot of scoring, not a lot of defense, high explosive plays, a lot of talent. The biggest question for me is what Ohio State are we going to get? I'm pretty confident that we're going to get the Oregon we've seen over the last 2 months here. They're going to score points. Defense is going to look capable. Are they going to be able to get that stop to win the game? That's going to be the question for Oregon. Ohio State, the last 2 games, we've kind of seen a Jekyll and Hyde. We saw them literally rip through Tennessee. Not a problem. But then the game before that, which everyone remembers, is Michigan, and they couldn't do anything. So the question is, what Ohio State comes out of the gates? What's going to be the adjustments that get made from that October matchup? I'm going to take Oregon. I'm an Oregon fan, but if I was not an Oregon fan, I'd be really flipping a coin at this one. This is a hard one, and I think this is going to be, if not game of the week, this might be the game of the year. So,
And for the record, I don't think Ryan Day will get fired. I don't, I don't think he will, and he probably shouldn't.
you know,
But I'm curious. I mean, those Ohio State fans. I don't want to put them on like Philadelphia Phillies, Eagles, or just
yeah,
Philadelphia in general. But they're getting to a point where they won a national championship. If they don't get one, like you said, I don't think he's gonna get fired. But there's gonna be message boards and there's gonna be tweets and there's gonna be stuff out there like
yeah.
get this man out. It's
It's
just the
gonna
world we live in social media.
it's gonna be interesting to see how these things kind of play out now. Now that we're in the playoff, like we've seen it in the NFL, where certain coaches get to the playoffs and then lose in the first round. It's like, okay, you're done. And we've seen coaches literally get into sneak into the playoffs and then steal a game or two, and then their job is safe. It's going to be interesting to see how this playoff saves coaches' jobs and where's the line going to be with different programs, because obviously we didn't have this before. We would get to the postseason, and honestly, really, what you did in the postseason did not matter because the only two jobs was the four the last 10 years. But if you got into the four, your job was definitely safe. It didn't matter if you got blown out in the first round. You made it to the top four. It's going to be interesting because, yeah, we had some teams here, Ohio State being one of them, got into the 12, and everyone's like, Ryan Day may get fired. And he picked up that big win right off the start. It's like the attitude towards it just feels like it's completely changed. It's like, I don't know. Last game tomorrow night. what bowl game is this? Sugar Bowl. Sugar Bowl. And we got number 7 Notre Dame taking on number 2 Georgia.
So I was picking Notre Dame no matter what. I know, obviously, about sometime last week we got the news that Carson Beck was pretty much out, well, not pretty much, he's out for the year.
Yeah.
So I'm curious how that affects the offense. Carson Beck, I know, started off the season really well, was a Heisman candidate, and just completely kind of tanked to end the year. Georgia had a strange year for a team that, I mean, when you think of Georgia and the team they've had in the past couple of years, you think of like a team that should go undefeated, a stout defense, someone that is dominating everyone, and they didn't have that type of a season. Their defense wasn't dominant, and I like this Notre Dame team. They're playing really really well. I think at the right time. So again, my big question mark is how good is sophomore Gunnar Stockton, and how much is he going to elevate that offense, if anything? I mean, do we just because of how poorly Carson Beck had been playing, I don't think we can just like throw in, oh, well, now Gunnar Stockton's here, offense is going to be better. I mean, they're really going to have to rely on Trevor Etienne in that run game. But Notre Dame's defense is no joke. Another key, though, no Riley Mills, defensive tackle for Notre Dame. He's a big, run stopper. He plugs up gaps. He's a big dude. So that, I think, will hurt Notre Dame's front seven a bit, but I don't think it'll be enough for Georgia to just win this game. I like Jeremiah Love, the running back for Notre Dame. I think this is going to be a game that he shows out and shows that he's going to be a Heisman candidate for next year. So I'm picking Notre Dame to win this game.
Yeah, I'm actually, a lot of things you just said were a lot of things I was going to say. I like Notre Dame as well. Georgia's been really shaky this year. There's been games where they've looked really good. There's been games they've looked really bad. This will be Stockton's first start as a quarterback. You just don't know how that's going to go. And maybe that gives them a little bit of an edge because it's a little bit harder to plan for Notre Dame's standpoint of what's this guy going to do. But at the exact same time, there's going to be a lot of, it's tough. I mean, you're playing one of the top defenses in the country under a national stage where everyone's going to be watching. You have no idea what kind of jitters is going to be going on with that kid. He may come out like a gunslinger and look great. He may come out and look just not. It could be very obvious this is his first start. And as I said, this is not the Georgia we've seen the last 5-6 years where they feel like they're layered deep. The last few years, especially I'd say the last 5 years, they would just come at you with layers of guys. Like their D line would have, it'd be line 1 and line 2, and like guys from line 2 are going to the NFL. It just doesn't feel that way this year. They don't have the Brock Bowers. They don't have the Lad McConkey. They don't have that guy that's like, oh, cool, we can just get this guy the ball and he's going to play make for us. Just it feels like they're lacking a playmaker, and that's what we saw even in the Texas game where they struggled to not only score but move the ball. Their defense is good, and I feel like this is going to be a defensive struggle. But I think it's going to be a good watch, and I think it's going to be an exciting game, and I think Notre Dame ends up winning it.
One thing I want to stem off of what you said, I liked what you said about Gunnar Stockton. Not only is he having probably some mental struggles, thinking that, oh crap, I'm now the starter. I think of the game where, or just this last, the SEC championship game. I mean, he had no time to process anything. It was, boom, Carson Beck got hurt. Gunnar, You're in the game. So it's like, you just got to put your helmet on, go out there and do what you got to do. Texas had no opportunity really to scout him because they didn't know he was going to play. So now you get a Notre Dame team that is able to scout him as much. What do we know about him? Not a whole lot. So even though they can scout for him, is it going to be enough to really know who he is? But then at the same time, Gunnar, you're a sophomore. This is your first start. Like you said, he's going to be probably pretty nervous. So that's why I kind of like Notre Dame, just because I don't think talk about literally the biggest game, a Sugar Bowl first start. I mean, that's tough.
Yeah. It's basically, in the easiest way of putting equivalence to it, it's like You're gonna go start the first week of your first start's gonna be in the first week of the NFL playoffs.
Yeah,
Good luck.
right.
Yeah, have fun. So we'll see how it turns out. But I'm excited to watch these 4 games. And as I said at the beginning of this podcast, I hope these games are more competitive, more exciting to watch than the first round games. We're in a great stretch of not only college football games, but also NFL games. It's been a great holiday season. I hope everyone has been safe and enjoying the holidays as we start the new year. James, anything you want to say before we log off?
Just enjoy the Boise State Penn State game tonight, and then if you go out after the game and enjoy the New Year's, just stay safe. Don't drive drunk, and get ready for 3 more games tomorrow.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. All right, guys, we'll see you in the new year, and thank you so much for watching. We'll see y'all later.